Also, the Chesogi mean the younger Sonroji.
Sonam Tajeling.
Oh, Kadrinchi. Yeah, didn't know what that. So, Tajeling. Ani, Rinpoche did pay that Pibiki thing somebody is in bed.
Mare, not Mongolia Tower.
Ani,
Kari, just the level, what?
lots of younger people.
Kari, young cat, so set. Lama number town. Salop number saying, check the land down, Then, Tanda, what you call me, somebody, Jazella, and Sobdima, Tarivik and the Lashia, race, and Della, Chomba legs, and two be chess in the town.
That's good. So, returning here again to this center, Karma Sanam Dagi Chilling, Ling. Translator said it wrong, not English. And I'm so, overjoyed to be here amongst all of you lamas and disciples gathering together here for this opportunity to teach on the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva that was composed by Geshe Rinpoche. And so first of all, I want to say welcome everybody and thank you so much for coming and for coming to listen to this talk. So Tibetan Buddhism has really spread widely now in the West, particularly because so many of these great masters, these great lamas, like of course omniscient, all-knowing, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and so many great masters of the different traditions within Tibetan Buddhism, the great lamas and khenpos and tulkus, and they've all come to the Western countries to turn the wheel of the sublime Dharma. And so that's why you see the Buddha Dharma really spreading and flourishing in these Western countries now. However, when we talk about the Dharma, and we really talk about when we're actually putting Dharma into practice, really crucial, really important, is that we are able to tame both our body and our mind, really tame our own mind. And so that's why this is so important. All of these, to actually accomplish this, then these great masters, these sublime beings, are always teaching bodhicitta, how to cultivate bodhicitta. So it's so important for us to know how to correctly learn and train our minds to cultivate this bodhicitta.
And that song on the castle, Gimoche, Ya, Talama, Chanange, give a pain here the castle, Tene, Monetanege, Tene, Lama Chanamo, Gimo, Ma, Mone, the Tabanda with the top of the sound of Tendeke, Tene, Sembala, Judo, Chamber Table. Lama Chanange, dipping him, song on the castle. Gemo Nadata, Royal, Nina Lama Chana, and the Leon, some go on down with Taha for somebody to go. Then that was in a sure mambo, then it's Sam told a jam not to be the same that. Never know was in the Charlie or tell us in the top, Lama Kunduri, Penata, Church, Yate, Cartian body. Tango topic Dondo is in the Laviori, taking the Lamakun and church yard to like
But the actual nature of the Dharma, how it really is, we need to be able to receive these teachings and explanations from a person who actually is able to hold and place the nature of that teaching in his or her own mind stream. So in the previous era in Tibet, we have a kind of a saying in Tibet, a kind of a story in which there's this Lama that taught so many teachings, right? Taught so much about the benefits of virtue and the negative effects of negative action. All of the defaults, for example, or faults rather, defects of negative action. And at that time there was this old woman, just regular, woman in the audience, one of the students, and she said, oh Lama, you're teaching so much about the benefits of virtue. And, when I hear that, it really makes sense. And then I think oh, I can really accomplish all this. I don't really need the Lama. And my mind is really touched. I'm really my mind really feels moved by this. But when you start talking about the problematic nature of negative karma, the defects of negative action, then I think oh, I don't really need to follow a Lama, maybe I just go on my own. The point of this is really saying that you need to receive the teachings from a lama who has been able to really implant the teachings in his or her own mind. That's why it's so important to receive the teachings directly from a teacher.
Lama Chananda on a tendent for here, Magova, Sanjay, Sanangone, Sanjay from Taviana, tendent windows. Tell some the Martin on a Yaze, Tomoda, which is a left now shadows. They begin him here because the lamb, a game not and Yava the Nana Royal. Lama Chara Kare, Dona, Meona, something of what's up on the Tende, you know, Lava.
Lama Kongi Chubala tenates in Tobasayum. My good season, the Lama Kongi Anching Chisagore, Digbagi makes on your Ditani, Yamodigia, or Uzela Danai and Yavala Hundo Lama cake, how up you know, Dianchi, Lama Garachi, Hamagoya, and the child. I know what was I this. Sorry, translator I made a mistake a little bit in conveying Rinpoche's analogy here. So to re-explain it, basically, so the Lama is teaching all of the qualities and benefits of virtue. And so this old woman, she's so inspired, and she says that, like, oh, Lama, you know, when you talk about all of the benefits of virtuous action, I feel like, wow, you know, Lama, you're definitely, like, you're surely going to become a Buddha. Like, surely you're definitely bound to become a Buddha. And I too, even me, this old woman, like, I also looks like I can reach some kind of very high state of realization or some high state of attainment. But Lama, when you talk about the downfall, the negative effects of negative action, then I feel like, oh, surely I am going to go to the hell realms. But then I look at Lama, you too, I say, I wonder where you are going to end up too. I'm not so sure.
Sambe the ten papa la tachetang monetanege to so young that game that galon pamana soba. Take him the lata monetan, get a pamana soba, jata jatamba to so young Dawajina, telling monetanege for a young Rene Tanda, Mindakora, Tan, the Tenet, the Belgian Lata, Yamezo Chogari. So children on it, the time I will so be you, probably the name of your bar. Then it took you the line, you think Chawa take on Kinda with you, Car take on, that was a Canada lady or Sena, Sam Jala lady, Sam Sankente, Cheladona and Yori, none of them I Yori, Leka Chiva Capsula in I Yori. Young of coffee and I am here, Magawari, and they send this to tap, Yoga, Josena, then he sent some bigger one, then a pop. Some bigger one, then a pop, the current pop over the center, Majun Rowan, Nogan, Tata, and the same year from the partner, Mana, Majuba, taking your money. Tell Tabu, the same year from the they want double Shadari. Don't have Mendo by Shadari. Tell Tabu, the same year from the spend the land with the command of Gabba Chabi Cherto, then the Marangi come to chew young about the group. Take a nana, Jamisi, the touch and joke the same. Chapara, Jinji, taking Salagan, the shake the pony. Then one Shua in a room, long Shua in a room, two Shua in a room, Kari Shua in a, the number of a bone Shua in a, then it tell her, and so Chapa
Last for Rinpoche. Because, so basically, the most, like, what is the most important thing? Like, what for us is the most important thing? It really hinges on our mind. And basically, I think I just left something out. Oh, I'm sorry. I left the page out. Go back. So the reason is that we've heard many teachings, many Dharma teachings. And we have to, of course, cut through our misunderstanding through listening to the teaching. And then we have to further reflect, contemplate, and really stabilize our understanding, really have conviction in our understanding of the meaning. And so, of course, for the illustrious Sangha, the bhikshus, the bhikshunis, the monks and nuns in the Sangha, they really examine the teachings, and they really, only then are they able to really go into the practice. But for people like ourselves who are really just ordinary beings, still not realized, still on the level of the ordinary being, and we're also, we live in the worldly life. And so, for us, what is the most important thing? It really hinges on our mind. Because when we're going out, our mind is there. And when we're inside, our mind is still there. And when we're working, our mind is always there. When we're doing our practice, our mind is there. So, whatever we are doing, we're always with our minds. And so, that's why it's so important to really cultivate the right frame of mind, the right intention. For intention that we should have is remembering that all mother sentient beings are as infinite as space. And each and every one of them, there's not one that has not been our own father or mother. And all of these father and mother sentient beings, whose numbers are as vast as space, only want to be happy. There is not a single being that wants to suffer. And so we should give rise to this intention, high purpose.
I think our translator is gone. I think the internet is having difficulty, since center here, already hired her. I'm trying to speak in my broken English. Might able to go through, might be same like this, but I think I wanted to ask today for her to call back. Hopefully she will call today. Any other translators here among the Sangha members? No? I think we have to continue later, try my English. And for practicing Dharma, main important thing is the mind, really training your mind. That's really what we're trying to do. Our mind is like a wild horse. It goes all over the place. When it goes all over the place, then it will create a lot of positive thought, a lot of negative thought, positive action, negative action, all kinds of different things. Then positive action lead into the better place as a human or God or demon God. Negative action leads in a lot of suffering places. Therefore, main important in what you told me say 37 practices of Bodhisattva is trying to really train your mind, train your mind, have a positive look. And what kind of positive look is benefiting for all the sentient beings? As he already translated, like all the sentient beings, limitless like sky, everybody is one way or another. It's been your father, it's been your mother, brother, sister, spouses, all kinds of different ways. It's connected, it's connected. Then a lot of times we think, how about enemy, But enemy is also sentient being, and we might have some kind of resentful, unlike your own enemy. But in their sight, same as any of us. They like happiness, they don't like suffering, they wanted to have freedom, they don't want to have any negative hindrances. So like that. So therefore, main method of the generating Bodhisattva is really training your mind. That is exactly part of the Buddha, There's there is nothing can please.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh, Karichina, the Chedo Sala.
La, Bada person, Marwa.
Sim, Pada, Tabado, the Zuma, the Brandi.
Oh, no. Thing into Kapsula, Chancho was something here, which like the Kachamo.
That's so much. Did I get cut off or you guys heard the translation?
Yeah, you go ahead with that.
거기서 거기 말하디 제가 먼저 미안하고
딸딸이 단계도 차타마 송다.
that's what So so the mind is always with us at all times, whether we're going out or whether we're staying inside, wherever we are doing work, doing practice, our mind is there. And so, like, it really is crucial that we cultivate the right mind state, the right frame of mind in our Dharma actions. And so what this is we should cultivate a strong motivation, remembering that all the sentient beings who are as vast as space have been our own parents. There's not a single being that has not been our own mother and father in previous countless lives. And all of these infinite mother sentient beings only thing is they want to be happy, and not a single one wants to suffer. And so we should give rise to this bodhicitta motivation that feels I shall establish all these beings in the state of unsurpassable benefit and happiness. And for this purpose, for their purpose, I am accomplishing the genuine pure Dharma. And that's why it's so important, because when we come from this perception and this attitude, then whether we are receiving empowerments, or whether we are receiving oral transmissions, or Dharma teachings, or whatever we are receiving, then it really becomes truly of most benefit to us is if we cultivate the purest motivation, the purest attitude. That's why it's so important to be able to cultivate bodhicitta.
Semje tamje la chamba de hindi te soba ji yoga de la te tam do ma de ba ke sanje ke gomba da bo te yan do ge te sanje ke gomba la khade song yo te na semje goja ma to pa yawa ji de thap ji me so na song ma le yawa do bo sanje chong yen de nam ta ya se chan jo simba ta te gen do la Monetan samje seba nyar zombi ta kevo tama yon loba tamje te gomba khare yoga de na semje tamje te pende lan me ko kompa ko ke gomba yoga de mo te ta gomba yoga ke tani yawa tamje ke ko gomba te ngaran so ke to tambe ke chur gen do na nyane zo go yena Java Jeba Chizoko Yori, Tok Niva Chizoko Yori, Tate Tava Zor Jebala, Simjin Tambe to Boko Yori, Simjin Gojama Topa, Java Jeba Tabjime is in the Somali thing because of that Java Dobosan, Young Den the Tamje Jang, Jenny J took the case in around Toki, Chavanda, the Tiganan Yori.
If we are able to do this, then, for example, in our own mind, then we will truly reap the fruition, the fruit of Dharma practice. We'll truly see the fruition of our Dharma practice, the accomplishment. Because it is the Dharma that truly benefits the mind. And we will be able to give rise to the bodhicitta, the love and the compassion for all sentient beings. And also we will be able to achieve the state of Buddhahood. What is Buddha, really? What is Buddha? What pleases the Buddha? It says in the scriptures that only benefiting the sentient beings, this is the way to please the Buddha. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the awakened beings, their only really purpose, their only purpose is to place the sentient beings in the unsurpassable benefit and happiness. And that's why if we are dedicated to the welfare of the sentient beings, then with that, we are doing exactly the thing that pleases the awakened minds of all the Buddhas, the Lord Buddha, and all the awakened ones. And so if we practice Dharma, pure Dharma, genuinely from this state of mind, from this motivation, then we really are truly able to do what pleases the awakened minds of the Buddhas. That's why it says, beyond, there is no other way to please or way to delight the Buddhas beyond serving the purpose of all sentient beings, placing them in the state of unsurpassable benefit and happiness. So that's why we will actually have what we need to please and delight all the Buddhas. 먼저 처음에 샘기 유들라 come 대신인 거 열리스니.
come 대신인 거 열리. 대 여도 가서라. 근데 나랑 저거 상계게 공부 따도라. 근데 셔트 줘봐이나. 근데 오늘 단에 타도 상계 공부 톱톱을 좀 봐요리. 상계게 공부는 톱아이나. 대백의 상계도 장조선 봐. 다들 그 산재도 장조선마, 마음의 산재도 장조선마, 탐지게 생제 탐지게 로그 좀 간데 걔는 두바다들라 두치게 누바 땅나서라 요래. 요새 때라 때네. 때네 라운드도 빵 펀좀 사봐도. 연동도 배나 떡과 펀좀 사봐. 대다고 빵도게 연대 용수도 봐 탐지게 나나서 줄라. John knew the Nibata was the Kana and the Yuri said, not that, but they come to our sheep in him was the same day, some day, the same day of Yopatan. That day, young, no more to give out the dream name, that Gaja, she don't come on, I just had all lots of the give out the dream name. Poor Toma Mepani, Tamepanda or is somewhat day, then it can't joke the same. Yebala thing, Long put up Janjo Sen Latine, Devo Tontam Janjo Semianta was top of the capsula. That's him Jin Tamjela, Pen Lana maybe, Doctor Book in Nubaka Ranchuk in Jonga Yori. Tenet Tomin Rotonzi, someone the pen and Yaman Novani Shani, Sama de Coro Sando Tabula. Then the same Jin Tamjela, Pen Lana maybe top in Nubaka Ranchuk and Jonga.
Bless her mercy. And the result of this, we also will see that we will achieve the extraordinary true self-benefit, the true benefit for ourselves. Now this achievement, this state, it's not like a fruition that comes without a cause. This is not without a root cause. What is this essence or root of this potential to achieve this highest state of benefit for oneself and others? This is stated in the scriptures where it reads, all sentient beings are actually Buddhas. However, temporarily they are covered over by adventitious obscurations. What is meant by saying all sentient beings are Buddhas? Actually, all sentient beings have this Buddha nature, this Sugata Garbha, this Buddha nature in the mind. And since all beings have this Buddha nature, then if we practice the Dharma in accordance with the intention, the enlightened intention of the Buddha, then we actually have the capability to attain the ultimate state of enlightenment. And then, you see, we have this potential to accomplish the purpose and benefit of sentient beings, all sentient beings, equal to the capacity and power of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the present and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the future. This power and potential, this capacity we also possess, because the ultimate self-benefit is to reach the perfection of abandoning all that is to be abandoned or purified, and then also the benefit of others is bringing to full expression the total realization, realizing everything that is to be realized. This is called the awakened qualities of total purification and total unfurling of realization. And so, dependent on what do we awaken to this state? It is really because we have this Buddha nature, because this Buddha nature is there and present in the minds of all sentient beings, that when we clear away these obscurations of the poisons of mind like desire and anger, pride, ignorance, and so forth, then we actually have the reason that we say samsara has no beginning and no end. But when we cultivate this bodhicitta, then we are able to accomplish the fruition, the result. And so it is in dependence upon the relative level bodhicitta of the path that we can awaken to the ultimate bodhicitta of the result and awaken to the state of Buddhahood. And this is why spontaneously, automatically, we will be able to accomplish the unsurpassable benefit and happiness for all beings when we do this. Like it is said, like the enlightened activities are effortless, like when the sun shines in the sky from behind the clouds, then the sun has the power naturally to illuminate the entire earth and dispel the darkness. So in the same way, spontaneously we will have the power and capacity to benefit the sentient beings.
Semjen nam sangye te honya lower temete yusena somare ta tanda ganam to samsam bravo khande chela yore sana jo mare pasingye te la tenne ton ne thambo ne so sangye yimba ha mago sangye yimba ha mago ba la tenne jo mare pate ngani so be kun simbaji pyo soma te la tenne tenne par ma che pala Kovale Chamro, your understanding Chambu, your understanding, Tambo, Mao, Yamakan, the Yete, Da Singete, Tawan in the Mepa, Da Mepa in I am, Da nothing you, Yamakan, the Yete, Da Tella ten yen, the Fan yen, then that and yen, a sober than Ta, Mepege, then a penam, Hovan de la Tedeke, no, not over one. Chamba della tene, le non nato basa, le non nato basa balla tene, tene legin devo non nato bagnon con che devo tene fama che parla logo io de sta della logo tene de somare, logo che teme de somare khale sena, ngaram to ka jula yoga ke rekam dawar ki kimbo, tela ora yon kun sepa Young Kona Demba, Ya Kama Man Java Mepa, that young Jata Jasama, one to kill them by Yoba Rete. At that I will have my own to hear the thing, then in front of the castle, that the young Cheba to Papa Tella, that Nima the king for the someone, Nima no Hari Yori. Starting Tama Yori, Dumble some Kira, talking about the Yori, Yena Yata, the Madama not about the Demba Castle and Masarawa Cham, on a family take Nimat and Phone you may wonder with it, Tar and go into the Hind of the General the window. A $3 Jum Marik Bar, sing it lower thematic Demba of the castle, then the Ta Nepal and Hoan, Cham Donkey. Then the lower sender, some of the cars, and turn the chala, the some theology, Mimbola, Nyomo Bandene, Pedota Mlonda was the Chavi or Marite. Yena Antony, Robert Takova, Chum of the Koran, Joda would tell us in the zone of your tell a Robert Daves and so on. They in the gas of the top, that will be depart the sour top. Can't took the same young top, you get to the tabla. When it's that for a penna, young daughter, or then I give you two number, not over the non can do the same number to someone that I would have been last over the non and so on. So on that would be not just a shiva like a young daughter. Then I want you to make the somebody. The name Pakistan was that and that. The name Lojon Tandimana of number song about it. Don't I got the carriage and only that shirt is so good. Low and Lamet on the show. Nyam for name. Nyam for Lambate, that Gombe, Nyam for name saying Casana. Oh, somewhat sometime. Có tâm thế là tempo xong rồi tâm máy pa thằng một còn là thuộc về đó đó chỉ phá được xong rồi tên là phá thà là số sự được xem chưa là ta giải thì cả chung vào đấy còn bên nhóm số này những sự này là phải đi vào đấy hoặc thế ta vừa chẳng chịu được xem nó mới chỉ được con đồng phèn số sự được xem chưa cái thế này còn là ta mà được được bao cái yêu bao thì Taco di Chetola, tanto stavo te ne sono te indicato la data, rimanato molto come che sono vegetà, ancora te state stando da che non sta, ma anche molto di quello che
Love. So, because of this, so basically, we said like, all sentient beings are Buddha. However, they are temporarily covered over by obscurations. So, like, where are we in all of this? Like, what kind of order are we? Like, here we have what we call the pause or ignorance, really. And because of our ignorance, really ignorance, lack of recognition. Actually, we don't know that we are already Buddhas. And because we don't recognize that we are already Buddhas, this ignorance, this lack of recognition, then we think like, I exist. And we believe in this I, this me, this self. And because we have this ignorant misunderstanding, we think this self exists. That's why uninterruptedly we wander in the samsara. So how is it that we are wandering in the samsara? It's because first we have this sense of, oh, I, me, I exist. Actually, the self, the I, has never existed, but we don't recognize that. We believe so strongly that the self, the I, exists. And then from there comes the externalization of a truly existing other apart from ourselves. And then from that comes all these endless duality of enemies and friends and all kinds of concepts and ideas. For example, in samsara, we wander because of these endless concepts. And when we have the endless concepts and emotions, that creates endless, all different kinds of karma. And when we accrue all different kinds of karma, then we are bound to suffer all different kinds of karmic results. Uninterruptedly, endlessly, in this way. So this is really what we mean when we say covered over by the adventitious obscurations, the temporary obscurations. What does that really mean? Is that actually we have this Buddha nature always there in our nature of our mind stream. And that Buddha nature that we have is perfect. It is completely free of any faults and any imperfections. And all the Buddha's qualities are already perfect in there. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be removed. The Buddha nature is 100% already, all the qualities of Buddha we already possess completely and perfectly. But because we don't recognize that, and we think me, I. We believe that the I, the me exists. So that's why we are temporarily covered over by these obscurations, this lack of recognition. Like the sun covered over by clouds. Actually, we say temporary obscuration. What is really meant by that? Lubur, temporary, adventitious. Well, the sun is always there actually, shining in the sky. But the temporary obscurations are kind of like the clouds or like the weather obscuring the visibility of the sun. But that sun itself has all the capacity of luminosity, it has all the capacity to shine. There is no lessening or diminishing in the sun's power. The sun is there, but because of the way that the clouds form in the sky temporarily, then it appears to us like the sun is very far away. It appears to us like we cannot see the sun, even though the sun is always shining the same. The same way is like our ignorance, our lack of recognition is like this. It's an adventitious obscuration. And this is why we wander in samsara endlessly. And the reason why this is called this lubur, adventitious, temporary, it means that there is no obscurations inherent in our Buddha nature. Never. It's not like Buddha nature has some kind of fault or emotional poison that has to be removed. But temporarily, just like the clouds form in the sky, temporarily blocking our recognition or appearance of the sun, we have these obscurations. And the more we are able to remove or purify the temporary coverings or obscurations, the more this innate Buddha nature becomes apparent. And that's why when we cultivate pure bodhicitta, we have to really engage in the methods to do this. And that's why we have so many resources at our disposal, like the Bodhisattva Avatara, all of the great masters like Jewel Ornament of Liberation by Gampopa, all of these masters like Shanti Deva who taught just how to cultivate bodhicitta in the Bodhisattva Avatara. And likewise here, this text we are doing now, Muchu told me is 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, and likewise the 7-point mind training practices, and so on and so forth. All of these masters show like they from the Lama receiving the teachings and practicing it, and really practicing like meditation and practicing, it's not just saying, oh yeah, I know this, and just kind of taking some kind of shallow understanding, narrow understanding. But really it means going deeper. We have 3 stages. Like the first stage is listening to the teachings to cut through misconceptions. In the middle, we contemplate what we heard so that we really stabilize, really gain certain conviction over what we heard. And finally, in meditation, the aim is to actually merge the teachings with our mind stream, actually bring it into our own mind. That's something very important. And when we do this, more and more we can increase our bodhicitta. And the more we increase these qualities, the more we are able to purify these temporary obscurations of ignorance. And so then that's why now today we will be going through this text by Muchu Tome, Bodhisattva Muchu Tome, on the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. Rinpoche said to me, oh, but I don't see you and you probably don't see me. It looks like we have between us a temporary adventitious obscuration. But at least it's good you can hear me, I hope.
Sabar Tamjawa, and the Yoga, then Chobar Jabati, Namo Logeshwara is the next energy, Namuseki, Chobar Jabata, Kangi Chokum, Dora Kangi, Tikto, Sandy Ba, Lama Chotan, Statella, Museki, Sosika Lama Kan, Yamati, Lama Chotan, and that's on the in the castle, that. Tepa Yonsipa Tamjila, Tepa Tuma Tamjila, Lama Govi, that taken Nani Jang, Tepa and Chota Chupa, Tanjo Simbika, Lamna Chupas. That Tanjo Simbika, Lamna Chupas, Sanjet, Tela, So Lama, Lama Teki, Kande, Chen, Tepa Tatula, Kaya Tela, Takaran, Toda, that. In the castle, that means now did not make them. Lama chose a castle, Sanjay, you would come down and young is longing in a lama to Sanjay. I take a come down with you, and that Sanjay, Hima Pen, the butcher and dog tower, take his thumb to shoot nail. Never thumb the mother, but thumb to shoot in young and there were land with a top of you with a mamma. You think tell a ten, Taran, you tell Lama say, Sanjay, Yer, Mebatena, you know. In the theatre, Yer, Mebatena, you know, that is, that was some time you are a theatre, okay. Lama, the general, Yer, Mepeke, telling Bombo, la. That the ghost could be chancellor, that you start those and not that King Ninja was your mind pa. Satu tak adalah ini tiada mungkin ialah sambatan masih baca kita dengar ia semua gos kebaikan cara ini senalam jadi.
So to begin with the Gyese Lagwan Sobima, which is the practices. The first line of this text reads Namo Lokeshwaraya, and Namo is an expression of homage, Lokeshwaraya, homage to Avalokiteshvara. And then basically the whole verse reads, although you see all phenomena beyond coming or going, yet you are always working diligently, singularly for the benefit of sentient beings, to the Supreme Lama and the illustrious Avalokiteshvara, always I prostrate to you with devotion of my three doors. So here, Namo, the homage, the reason we begin with the expression of homage is in the scriptures, we have the phases of expression of veneration and the formal commitment to complete the text. And so here, this is first beginning the teaching, the text, with an expression of veneration and respect. And so, of course, first, Mushu told me, offers venerations to Avalokiteshvara specifically. And the word Lama Chok, Supreme Lama, this is, of course, to the root Lama. And now, in all of the yanas or vehicles of Dharma, we need a Lama, but specifically in the path of the Bodhisattva, the Lama takes central importance. And really, like, the Lama is recognized as the Buddha and is placed as the primary guide for us, really to have the Lama, to rely on the Lama. Now, for those practitioners that lived during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, then Buddha was their Lama directly. But Buddha Shakyamuni passing into the parinirvana, Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings remain today. The pure Dharma remains, and not only does the Dharma remain, but many, many awakened beings exist who have really accomplished the unsurpassable result of Dharma and have really awakened the realization of Dharma in their minds. And so that's why when we see the root Lama, really the root Lama is inseparable from the Buddha. So here, recognizing this, the Lama is inseparable from the Buddha, inseparable from Avalokiteshvara. And to this Lama, Supreme Lama, who is one with Avalokiteshvara, who is one with all the Buddhas, to this Lama, then Muchu Tongme says, I always prostrate with devotion of my 3 doors. It means not just offering 1 or 2 prostrations here and there. It means that, like, in the mind, there is constant devotion of body, of speech, and of mind, expression of devotion all the time.
Well, that is yes, Allah. Sambar Tham Jawa Sevior, Sambar Tham Jawa Tela, Pending Junet Dog Sanje Nam, Amjo Doctor John Tayane, Tayalani, Shela Gale, Jasenam Jelani, Shebarjas, and the Tatamar Tham Jawa Tela, Pembatan Devatam Jumene, Dog Sanje Nam. Pembatan Deva Singe della Namba Maboyori. Pena, that, Basic Origin Pombaji Yabayina, then tell us, Set Bayina, what then you pay to what all they were taking, told the settle we are, talk about the settle we are, neck up Pembadi, neck up Devanda, which you take Yori. You're at the inn, I am one at Tanek, Deva Tambanda, what the carriage is in, Tabata, something can be compound, what compounded. Say, but you tell the thing, some I don't know one can tell them the same thing. You Marik Party, one the journey, call the chum, they make a common magic by chicken at the same thing to some day. Neck up Pemba, Senna, not make up long sugar, come down with Lapa long sugar, come down with in a young. Then it told you some to young and young to kill on them. But near phone some Magovala Sobagi, Chavakari, but Pemba singing, they were singing then. Cut Loborge, they were saying here, but I would go here, but I would go here, but I would think here, but I would. That I would mind but you get told name, Tadu Deva Lana, maybe Tabne young and the Lamla, then Tadu Deva Lana, maybe Tabaki, but the Deva singing or that I would Deva Tabjete in Jomake, the Kana thing in Jomi or the Tena, Dog was Sanje, no thing in Jomi or Dog was Sanje, Java Tamji, Matamja, then you are here. Then it is Tanji, Kondishu Bata, the Simji Bojamato, by Java, the Taki means and the Lapuma. Or Java Doko Sanji, John Den, the Yons Doka Te, that Simkin, Tamjek, Tomto, never young and David Combana. Then Pepper, the or Mato Teke, Java Doko Sanji, John Den, that the Yen is on te, then Random Sanjabari, and get the Tadi on money. Rando the Sang Jabba, Rex engaging Yonada, Damo, Mananta, Damo, the Sang Jabba. You're the Gemdova, the Landin, they need to Castra, Java Dog of Sanjete, then the Yang Tongomana thing, that Sang Jabba, said that would be Pemba the Java Lama member. Joma the Dog of Sanjay, John and the Namian, Tomcho drop the Chonti. That comes yet down, there's the Bondo in Nubatam, there's the same year, some year, send it to the Nubala Soba, Bondo in your dental, Nubala Soba, the Kana, came on about the Sena, come the shoes and so on. That year, you then come to a church, not by it. That I'm not like the church on the Sena, there's the several castle attack, phone drawing on the dog, and let us know we choose in the city or the day. Tam choose several castle, Tam thinking to Cora, or Nepa. They be choose the drop a yena, then Catola, Lamaman to Comatobala, so member tell the Tam choose in the Yori. Then you think choose us over some big neck up, if they want to keep on down with the green or the tin tato, that for a Jotam, somebody get that for a. Learn young or the Teta mind, but I saw me the Tambi Church, drop on the Teta Java to the Sun, John the Young to go about John, that day on the Lani Shell Rally, that data was one of the young, that data was shown with the top, data was shown for him to be young thing, data would never run about top again, no you last about the that and your single Lani to hear about the thing. Tatum gave data was most about something the top of the by him to be young thing. That Java Dog Sangi, Jumdi, Nam Tang, Jase Chanjo Simba, Nam Ki, and it that Tambo Chanjo to Jane, Taman, young and Sal Majak, Padula, Lani Kari, Nayova, Yamni Challenge of Kari, Nayova, Tamki, Shaggy, and that Tamba Tam Java was today.
나서 rinpoche parola chedosa dipado perna dipado chik chadam kosra dipado kharsa tadi perna chik do thamje pende tre thuwe ki nipado pando gi yente changma gi nipadi khanga teni yonggeris na tambe chula teni yonggeris ning basa ani ta chula singe de mabo yeris perna nangwe gi chula thamje ngso dia seguris nangwa ruwe gi chula thamje de ya chula seguris ina tambe chula de ya tamba singe de lo ame bala seguris perna di chula di druna teni thatu gi devo di top thubya dan perna nekap se ya ji den na gi teni gibo yo ya la so pa dia yong thubya da dipado ya chedosra Tekaza parola chedoso, tenia dine sur rangcha sur leson de la karisa yawa tamche bana gese janchu semba tamche tangbo janchu gi choto tu given izon de kon rebo de aname ba sangi go ba mundo magyo gi pado teni lalen da wo nyamna da wo kare kharchi go gi yume dina wala ni songi en so gi shi zongba tamcha wa dina yore semba de parola kare songi ba goma so chedoso la 아니, 나서
나는 택시에 타는 나도 타와지 나도
나서 뭐지? 오케이, 네,
사실 제가 나는 택잖아 생각이하고 저는 저도 산도
나서 뭐지? Sorry, I thought maybe I lost some parts because it went out in the middle, but Rinpoche says it's fine. So, let's see, where did we start from? Okay, so after the expression of veneration, Chupajaba, next is called the Tsombar Damjawa, or the commitment to complete or to compose and complete the text. And so here we come to the second verse of the text, which translates as all of the perfectly awakened Buddhas who are the source of benefit and happiness came about through the accomplishment of the pure Dharma practice. And so since in order to accomplish the Dharma depends on knowing how to practice it, then here I shall elucidate the practices of the Bodhisattvas, or the children of the awakened ones, literally. So here is the commitment to compose and complete the text. So the word benefit and happiness, the word benefit of course means many things. There are definitely many ways to bring benefit to sentient beings. For example, even if you give food to somebody that's hungry, then temporarily you can eliminate the suffering of their hunger. You can ease their hunger. And so in that way, then temporarily you are able to bring them some kind of temporary relief from their suffering. That also is a type of benefit. But the real benefit means placing sentient beings into the state of liberation from samsara, into the state of omniscient Buddhahood, actually. That is really the true everlasting benefit. Now, all these mother sentient beings whose numbers are as boundless, as vast as space, because of ignorance, the cause, because of this lack of recognition, they are wandering in samsara. And not a single one of these sentient beings has not been our own father and mother in countless previous lives. And so, of course, bringing benefit, like temporarily, means like making sure that they stay on the path of Dharma, and as they are still on the path of training, until they become enlightened, that they continue to achieve higher rebirths, like rebirths in the higher realms, and become free from falling into the 3 lower realms of samsara and so forth. And so this is like temporary benefit, ensuring that while they are on the path, that they have a happiness and higher rebirths, avoid rebirth in the lower realms. And here happiness, so you have the word benefit and happiness. Here happiness, it doesn't just mean like temporary happiness, like the fleeting pleasure or fleeting happiness of the senses, like having some nice experiences and so forth. But it really means achieving the ultimate state of non-fixated nirvana, nirvana that does not abide in either of the 2 extremes. That is the real meaning of happiness, everlasting happiness. And depending on what do we achieve this for sentient beings, it is dependent on the state of perfectly awakened Buddhahood. Depends. They achieve this path. And as I said before in the 2 lines quoted, that actually the only purpose of the Buddhas is for the purpose of liberating the sentient beings and bringing benefit to the sentient beings. And so that being the case, then actually how do Buddhas come about actually? Well, Buddha did not become a Buddha by working for his own self-benefit. If that were the case, then surely we would all be Buddhas by now, because we have been totally focused on working for the self-centered benefit. But rather, it is through working for the benefit of others that the state of perfectly awakened Buddhahood comes to be. And so that's why the qualities, the capacity of a Buddha, in which one has brought to full expression the qualities of total purification and total realization, the capacity to truly bring benefit and happiness to all sentient beings. Where does this come from? It comes from the pure Dharma, the sublime Dharma, Dhambe Chu. Actually, the word Dharma is a word that doesn't only just refer to the sublime Dharma. The word Dharma itself actually means phenomena. Like when we say all Dharmas or all phenomena, like everything that appears and can appear, we call a Dharma, or lowercase d, in the sense of phenomena. But here when we say Dharma, Dhambe Chu, we mean sublime. Sublime Dharma, Dhampa, sublime, means infallible. It means that if we really practice this Dharma, it will never let us down. It will never fail us. We will guaranteed achieve the state of ultimate everlasting happiness and temporary happiness as well in the world, and then an ultimate state of liberation and Buddhahood. And so all of these bodhisattvas, the moment they first give rise to the supreme bodhicitta commitment and on until they awaken to the fruition of complete enlightenment, what are the practices that they engage in? What do they do? Here, Muchutongme explains, I will now elucidate all the practices of the bodhisattvas.
한결 주신이가 법준들은 나중 코업을 처리 나중 코업을 처리 그래서 년도 생대 영화를 봐요 냠셈 감마 냠셈 감마 수자세 라니 성을 다 되게 세게 되게 다와 예단 요와 교 생기지 땡기요래 다와 예단 요와 교대 세대나 당가만 본다고 녀본다고 쓰니 제 맛에 받지도 다 말아서 냠내 정게 망보래 다 초록 서스 본도 나고 난게나고 얘나 근데 제가 매컴네 예단 다르나 다와 근데 랑교가도 gen조가도 껴라 생긴다고 다 준비도 다 진조조다 이거조도 배 예봉 한다는 소리를 때 가르쳐서 다 나랑 저기 그런데 코와의 신자의 이견도가 then Chu Yang Tabaji, drop one at this Kalikaho. You said Della then that, got your body choking, Yamling, Nanda, Tango, Lodo, Namje, think it's a Congo, that for a hundred year back, Kiva Matapa, Legend, Corvin, send that lot of number get a Congo. Get Congo, that 100 year back, some of the town, not that tell the Tawa, and you are just sort of looking Mambo and Moyori. They in the castle, tell Tom Jet, Hebunana Yori, Hebunana Yori, Lama Hing, some to Yori, that one, send your number. Since Tower, you know, then the sort of since Tower, never in a that is that was the sort of thing. The Reva should be much of Pajang and not to do it as under the Royal Body. Say that was Tanjor, no, last one.
Oh, that's a oh, Tanda, your guy.
Ma, say here the church are carrying.
Oh, Karina, what's your Kari Sonachiva?
Oh, no, you say here the church are what?
Lazarus.
Oh, that was Tanjor to him, you got talking. That's our years and Jova Chote. Hey, Yana, Church and Bonda. Church and Body, Yava, then it's your pardon Togana, do to the Padilla, Pachi, Mebana, that Togana, Chef Togu was. I didn't enjoy the tongue of Murder that Tomba to Yantaba Drupi things in I know. Tomba to Yantaba. That just I would do to present our Yori. The next day, near Kawa, near Shannon and the Kawa. That day, for a journal which is a charge of a Yena, then it certain mambo song. That one to do the certain like in May, said that one to slamming to do things about the top of Jabala, and your certain mambo song, your mambo, drop. The Guamango Pang, then it want to do things to talk over the day in the castle, Shannon, near Kawari, just near Kawari, and Yoga Lute, that Talek castle, then the moment Kora Lute thing, Kora certain Yapo song, your mango drop, the Guayanta was certain Pang, collected within the top of it. In within the you are within the dying coverage that data will be within the answer talk about it. Can you talk about the coming to those in Mundowa? Wrong in a young coverage, Kovan, Tajins and I know, coverage net and it done, neck up only comment. That lambda, Kiwanda was talking to Tapson, I know, that's our done. Again, and I am telling cover the children, a drawer shall be shed or that round again, you got the Tony answer by the rubber shall be shed or la. That Yenda send or Yewa Mepane, Yasem Goma, Yasela Lin, that data was some of time, then they come back to Yassi and do some of the running and so on.
Lazarus. So, following this, the next verse begins with the line that reads, "Now when we have found this extremely difficult to find great ship, great vessel of the freedoms and endowments of the human birth, the precious human birth, if we should be totally undistracted and driven day and night for the sake of liberating self and others from the ocean of samsara, and meditate and really listen day and night without distraction and meditate and practice. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So here the word tanjor, or freedoms and endowments. So actually, we talk about the precious human rebirth being comprised of 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. But of course, if we go through in terms of just numbering them, it's kind of complicated. And every specific tradition of practice has its own kind of spin on these freedoms and endowments. And for example, in the Ngundro, the preliminary practice, we learned that there are 8 freedoms. That freedoms here is called freedom because we have bypassed falling into any of the 8 states devoid of leisure or freedom to practice Dharma, hence the 8 freedoms. And then 10 endowments, which are composed of the 5 personal endowments and 5 external endowments. And when we have all of these and come together, we have what's called the precious human rebirth. Now, in the Ngundro teachings, there is a very extensive explanation of these qualities because as long as we still have attachment and clinging for the samsara, as long as our mind is still attached to the samsara, then we will never really be able to bring our Dharma practice to maturation, to accomplishment. That's why in the beginning, first we really need to meditate and cultivate the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. And these 4 thoughts are reflecting on the difficulty of attaining this body of freedoms and endowments, the precious human rebirth. And second, contemplating the nature of death and impermanence. And thirdly, contemplating the inexorable law of karma, cause and effect. And fourth, contemplating the negative, destructive nature of samsara, or rather the defects of samsara. So here, we have all achieved this human birth, this precious human birth, endowed with the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments. And you can learn more about what this really means in the many, many books. Dharma books explain it. You can also hear from the many other lamas who will give extensive teachings on this. And many of you have already heard these teachings. Some of you are yet to hear. I hope you will continue to listen and learn more about what this really means and these 4 thoughts and so forth. But if I were to just really go extensively into this here, I think all the time would be taken up just talking about this. So suffice to say that this precious human body of 8 freedoms and 10 endowments is like, for example, it is like a great ship. A great ship that has the capacity to take us all the way across the vast ocean to the far shore. Like this, without any obstacles, like easily and unobstructedly leading us across the far shore. And so this human body of freedoms and endowments is really like, we call it like a vessel, or like a support, or like a great ship. Because this great ship of the human body is so difficult to obtain. Actually, it's incredibly difficult to obtain because the causes that lead to the attainment of the human birth, the precious human birth, are, for example, in order to have achieved this human body, we would have had to have upheld perfectly pure ethical codes of discipline. Because actually it is said that even to achieve a state of rebirth in the higher realms of gods and humans, we have to have not only maintained our ethical, moral discipline flawlessly, but also do a lot of virtuous action, abandon a lot of negative actions, and that's how we have the rare attainment of this human body. But now that we have found this human body, this precious human body, this vessel, now that we have found it, then, and this again is the result of upholding ethical discipline, practicing virtue and abandoning non-virtue, we must make sure that we do not waste, we do not squander this vessel of the human birth, that we at least assure that we are liberated from samsara, that we are at least going higher and higher, even on the temporary level, that we are always getting higher and higher rebirths until finally we become liberated from samsara. And so in order to accomplish the great benefit of self and others, then we should make use of this very difficult to obtain vessel of freedoms and endowments, and without any distraction, day and night, we should engage in the practice, or we should meditate, listen, and contemplate. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. That's what we say. Chi goma sang michi dokse shuna di yere kyuchi. Tanda di simbala tanda di perna nganza tanda perna chi da jansha ki simba da wachi yana thani semchen ki dongma to shemba khaya yomar te nganza perna langdor ki korang ne de la mong ne perna nganza tana perna jansha simba chi yana perna dra yana rong nyen yana rong riksu gyorba yana rong riksu ma gyorba yana rong di 상마 펜타고 유서도 파마가 겨바 지가마가 디 켄기 어레스 디나야 찍찍 송송들라 릭스 겨바 이나로 릭스마 겨바 이나로 찍찍 연체 카레 부종마서 임베 디가요 디코마서 카레 연체
한 뭐 연초
부종마 어디서 어라서 카레치
다 소지 여반지 연는 송데 저 통제 대원도 찾아내요
카렌치 라서 니티 체나선스 That's all. So the next line reads, toward our friends and loved ones, desire surges like water. Toward those who we see as our enemies, anger blazes like fire. We are lost in this darkness of the ignorance that has forgotten what to accept and what to reject, that doesn't understand what is right and what is wrong. So to abandon the homeland is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So here, abandoning homeland, it's a lot easier for us Tibetans because, like it or not, we've already lost our homeland. So half the battle's already won, whether or not in our minds we wanted that or not, but we don't have a homeland to speak of, so therefore we've already abandoned our homeland, so to speak. But nonetheless, actually, the emotion, the poisons of mind are so powerful that, like, even though we relocate, become refugees in another country, but after a while we get used to the ways of that country, we start working, we get used to then it almost like it becomes a second homeland to us. So we develop the same kind of like attachment for our new country that we live in. That's why like the poisons of mind are so powerful. It's like you have to have a homeland to call your own. You have to have like a place to call your home country, right? So then anyway, the point is anywhere that there's a mind of attachment, the mind of grasping and attachment, then we have to be able to overcome that. And so that's why whether or not you have like an actual birthplace that you feel is your homeland or whatever, abandoning homeland, what is meant really here by homeland is like the place where you have all kinds of things going on. You have like your friends, your loved ones, your parents, your children, your near and dear ones, and so many people you have relations with, right? And so to all these people you have like your loved ones or your friends that you feel are objects of benefit. They benefit you, and so there's a sense of like almost possessiveness and attachment, desire there, because you feel like, oh, these are, they're my supporters, they're, my loved ones. And to these beings, our desire, it just surges like water, like a river, like water. And then toward those who are our enemies, because like this is the way of the world, right? This is like the worldly tradition is that like once you have like your own territory, and then you have to have like enemies also. So like for example, naturally you have these enemies. Actually, anybody who doesn't kind of get along with those who you call your friends or your own, then we give them the name enemy. But if you really think about it, nobody is like born from the moment of their birth and they say, I am going to be the enemy of this person. It doesn't work like that. But once we have this perception of somebody as our friends and on our side, our loved ones, then like we feel like, oh, I am supreme, I am superior. And when we have this sense of like the self-importance, the superiority of the self, then naturally anybody who threatens that sense of self-importance, we will call them our enemies. And so anybody who disagrees with us, who doesn't kind of get along, or who threatens or opposes this sense of self or our friends and loved ones, so we call them our enemies, or anybody who, let's say, feel that they interfere with our accomplishment of what we want to do. In some way, they're an obstruction or interference to our self-purpose or to our friends. They don't get along and so forth. We call them our enemies and we don't like them. And our anger and our hatred, it just blazes like fire. And so, actually, the next line is about ignorance. It says, this darkness of ignorance where there's no understanding or awareness of what to accept and what to reject. Actually, like I said before, the Bodhisattvas, their only purpose is to liberate the sentient beings. And so whether or not a being is appearing as an enemy or as a friend, whether or not the being is in their family line or their caste or their class, or whether it's not in their class or their family, even down to the smallest ants and insects, any being that has sentience, any sentient being, they only want to be happy, and the Bodhisattvas recognize this. They recognize that all beings have been their parents. So there is always the sense of commitment to bringing forth their well-being. But we, not recognizing that, we perceive whole groups of beings kind of like strangers, and we feel like we have absolutely no direct connection to them. So there's like this kind of darkness with regard to any kind of feeling of responsibility to benefiting them, and that's like the darkness of ignorance. So the last line reads, abandoning the homeland is the practice of the Bodhisattva. The Western people and the Tibetan people, like comparing as far as where our sense of like attachment is stronger, I would say that the Tibetans have like a stronger attachment to their like country and their homes. Like, for example, like take me as an example. Lo jipchu drone New York la june this thing there. Lo jipchu. I've been in New York for over like 40 years. But there are like 50 states in this country, but I only really don't, I mean, yeah, maybe I have some kind of like been here and there, but I really feel like New York di ma to chi kharza gore shira yama tani periagi tudero ki ma song simbe
tende ba le da chötin he chöso sala pa to kasa kala no yo
na da
American nana yana yo yo de cheki jakab yanda la yana yo yo de yana ya ta de se ke nan da wo te dan de ngana ke para shinken dan de ngana ke nan ni sam ke do she tan ne
that's
ne la chen ne la lo ji pe la ta do so ma le
that's Tene look chopa den so kasa kala drone that sama so chi so gore ta chi nan san da wo de Like, for example, you know, I've lived in New York for 40-some years, and of course I've traveled all over the country, all over the world, you know, to many different Dharma centers and so forth. But I still feel a very strong sense of like, this being like my home is New York, you know, like my city, my place. Like there's just this really strong sense, like that's where I live, you know. This is where I really have kind of made kind of a nest for myself there. and yet like the Western people, like they're always like up and moving, like from one place to another, like 1-2 years, then ready to move. There's not that same sense of being anchored to one place. So I think many Tibetans are like me in that you kind of get like really anchored to one particular place, and so you have a sense of like stronger attachment, let's say, or affinity to that one place that you call your home than the Western people do. So we have to be able to abandon the homeland, right? Like free ourselves from this attachment to homeland. And so of course this is also applies to the Westerners, but for Tibetans too, even though we've already in a sense lost our homeland and abandoned our first homeland, but there's still the tendency to our new place, the new country that we moved, that we call that home, to still see that as like our homeland, our new or second homeland. So anyway, we have to be able to abandon attachment to homeland.
example the Java is pretty something in the thing, and how the Java is not so big. Young and never come up with the Java now, and then they are mad. That thing, you can tell a thing, that one there, a lot of number here going, that lot of to be still. That young stuff is the time that you do one thing, that time is ready to put it, and that is not that one. Then they rela pen that for the dam Mema that was in the pen. The garden is another dam Mema that was here, not that day. In the Yelaki for a guy, continue something, the kids that is done over Madeva, inside the court, and the man over Madeva, that was the tower, you know. Then it's such a tower. Keep on lying the salad gone, they do the phone over your take it a lot. The thing you think should take it up, call a young, come to your zone, somebody. That the shape of told, and then call a told, lot of numbers you can go and told up and just send a thing. The dam came up the la, then the rest of the farm, cheap part of that. When I next have all that stuff was down, him not over the game, kept over till that. Then you read the porches and mint out now the good ones about the top. Some of the that was one of the and then the go with the castle. Some one is the door now with the carry of the center. Some who want now to take on the castle, now in your head. That you might come with the castle and now and you make a turn over your head. Set out maybe the same attendant and now in the courage of John Togo Thompson of town. That's one hour, sort of down the center, all the time over it. All the conjure time over the center, and I'm bloody baby, Sajana, again, rather good, they want to make a fair, the Hajan Nagan, Melan, there were mother numbers there, the top other cowboy over the tell us in make a fair, never never carry or saying in the castle. John all the time, but that taken the curve down. One told Thompson down, that sort of kettle general did have the council up. And in the short normally, that we showed normally, that look of the get, you sing on money, you don't go to you sing on money, they look after the name. Some say among what she got to you sing on money, some of the 9 years somewhere. Choke, to choke, the thunder, that for a Shin do someone that was in a tell him, I told you, you think that should be in the magic. Shoran Yakondo, Toronto, Dando, they are watching, they are watching, look on that would be some shape where I never you think that then don't over Thompson, down, said that, and there's only your day. That is that one that the Penna Yimanda, staying look as a law. That is that we have a yen, and you shall do the report young. Non don't know someone will never hear that, the tap for a shirt teller. Then the way out of a taking or the shirt teller, the way out of a tenor and sugar tin, narrow turgan the home yard. Then the narrow turgan the home, and that's in the one that on that shirt someday, narrow cuts over now, there in Duga or something, you get the 10 years to get to the yard. Delta with your thing, we must them but just and just the running and so on.
So, Rinpoche, 독세시에 지 영어로 오신 단다디 당고기 빼디 가리고 단다디 페나 리다나 신신에 페나디 직된 취게 된서라 잼네 콘탈리아 직 릴레야 직 드로야디 페나디 빼디 리다나 신신에 되네 페나디
리다 메만다고 세요.
맨마트나 한데고
리다는 다지 잡는 맛이에요.
알레 어디에 나타났어?
건 네바시다 요마로 네바로.
맞아요, 뭐지?
다 얘가 소라는 다고 따기요.
나 소리 뭐지 가진치.
요가감.
아니 다른 공부 체험만 섬시야인 다다디야 직제디코 양자디 나쁜 거라 트렌드니 전 가서 그래 또그 당송 약속 겨디 당고기디 야고 거기 하면서 디야 저 야고 겨투 그 말이디 양자디 직 소로지시야인
레기 포체.
레기
레기 포체.
Rinpoche sama Rinpoche.
Rinpoche, that Rekona, Pama Himbara, Rekala,
Rigipu, Ale, oh, Rigipu, I was saying,
Para Corona, Resmala,
Rigipuche, oh, Katinchi. Let's go. Somebody, oh, that happened. I need your radical. Well, that is a con. Okay. There. So the next line reads, by abandoning a bad environment, by leaving a bad environment, the emotional poisons will gradually diminish, will gradually get less and less. Because there is no distraction, then naturally virtuous action and virtuous practice will naturally increase. And because the awareness will be very lucid and clear, naturally confidence and certain understanding of Dharma will dawn in the mind. Therefore, staying in a solitary retreat-like environment is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So here, as mentioned before, like what is meant by, a bad environment? Here, as long as we have a sense, like, whether or not it's like what you call a homeland or whatever it is, the place that you have everything going on and all this attachment is basically like you're very caught up in this kind of situation. We would be trying to benefit our loved ones, trying to do things for these people we perceive as our loved ones, and trying to protect against enemies and so forth. And so any area, basically there's no inherently existing like bad environment. By bad environment, it's not like saying, oh, leave this one place and go to another place. It's more referring to any place that we are totally caught up in attachment and in all this distraction. So really the word a bad environment or a negative object or environment, it doesn't mean objectively, inherently abandon a specific location. It's very unusual for there to be an actual place that is the problem. The real problem is our attachment to that place and to the people and things going on there. So really it means like overcoming that, leaving a place or a situation where we are totally bound up in all of this attachment and distractions, like for example, a place where we feel like, this is my home, this is my place, and these are my friends, and these are my loved ones. We have so many ideas and so much going on, and so we always want to get caught up in doing good things back to these people and helping them. And then when we have that, we have the friends, and we have all kinds of like responsibilities and busy work that we have to do. And then we get totally caught up in this endlessly. But when we free ourselves from this distraction, then naturally our emotional poisons will diminish because there's no more any distraction. And naturally when there's no distraction, virtuous practice can grow and increase. Our awareness will be lucid. It means like when we are caught up right in the middle of a place where we have all of our connections and friends and enemies and all kinds of things going on, and we also have so many things to think about. We have so many complicated ideas and things going on that it's so difficult for us to actually be in the lucid awareness that we need to be in order to really gain some certain confidence in Dharma. But when we remove ourselves from that, then there's no longer anything to worry about, because now we don't have to have all these thoughts and ideas and plans about how to help this person or benefit this loved one and how to protect against this enemy. We're free from that. So then we have the awareness just there and lucid, and then we're much more receptive to the Dharma. Then we are really able to focus our minds on the Dharma and the pure Dharma. And when we are able to do that, because we don't have to think about all these other things, then it's much easier for us to really gain an understanding and a certainty of the Dharma, because our awareness is undistracted by concepts and ideas. And so that's why, like, the Agyipa masters of the past, they used to say, like, that they would be like, almost like take the mountain as they become like the sons or daughters, the children of the mountain, almost like the mountain becomes their parents. And they wear the mist, the mountain mist as their clothing. And they completely free themselves, turn their backs on like worrying about like finding food and clothing styles and all the worldly talk. So for example, normally like when we live in a place where we have all this going on, then we're so caught up in like protecting and helping the friends and family and like overcoming, protecting against the enemies, and so we're totally engrossed and immersed in samsara, and the samsaric actions, they never end. So naturally, like we are caught in samsara, wandering in the worldly life, wandering in the samsaric trappings. So for example, like we think that we are doing good things, right? We think like, we're doing the right thing, but actually we can't say for certain that even when we do like seemingly positive actions to benefit our loved ones, still it's samsara. Still, we can't say that it's going to become a cause for our enlightenment. But when we remove themselves from that distraction, that situation, it's like a wounded forest animal, like a deer that's been shot by an arrow. Like a wounded animal will run away from crowds of people or other animals. They will want to hide because they're already in a compromised, vulnerable state. And so they're much more kind of in a dangerous state of becoming the prey of another animal because they're already wounded from the, like the arrow and so forth. So that animal is going to want to hide in the mountains, going to want to hide to protect themselves from harm because they're already vulnerable. Well, that's kind of like the attitude of the yogi, the practitioner, is like wanting to run from the 8 worldly dharmas, the 8 worldly concerns, and just totally like anywhere there's that samsaric kind of pull, the 8 worldly concerns, they almost like feeling like afraid and shy from that. They run to the mountain, and that's why like Rigipu, like this child of the mountains, they're like the child of the mountains. Like now the mountain is their parent, sustaining them, and they're like a wounded animal, like running away from all the trappings of the worldly concerns. And then wearing the morning mist, or the mountain mist as the clothes, it means like when you're up high in a remote mountain wilderness and you're doing practice, like there's like there's like the mist, like there's like the fog almost. I mean, of course, then when the sun is shining directly over you, it's warm, but there's this sense of like being enshrouded in the mist at the mountains. And so you're in this remote, like a mountain retreat kind of land or hermitage. And then turning the back on the like clothes and the food, clothing, and worldly talk. It's like, for example, like Milarepa, for example, like living in the mountain, isolated, not getting caught up in all the distractions, just relying on the food of like the grass and like living there in the mountains, not making any like direct contact with many other human beings. When you live alone like that, like you don't worry about what you eat or what you wear. And likewise, like you don't worry, there's no friends you have to worry about, helping. There's no enemies you have to worry about defeating. So there's no thoughts of like protecting the friends and family or defeating and overcoming the enemies or those who go against us. So then the mind is free to think only of Dharma and practice Dharma and what is to be accomplished. Because the talk, worldly talk, is like in the world, like, there's so many things we have to say and we have to do. Like in the worldly talk, it's like, oh, do this, don't do that. Oh, this is good, this is bad. We always have to like talk, the worldly talk. But now there's no need for that. And so then naturally all the thoughts and ideas, they're less because there's nothing to really get caught up in. So the mind, the awareness is so much more available and lucid to really focus on the pure Dharma. And then naturally, when our awareness is lucid, naturally the true nature as it is, we will see that nature. And when we see that nature, then we will have a sense of conviction, like, so this is what it is. This sense of like true conviction, of confidence arising in the mind. And so that's why the instructions say to stay in a solitary retreat-like environment is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So 11 o'clock for me, 2 o'clock for you guys.
Oh,